All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting ready to start our show in just one quick minute. Waiting for Doc Griggs to jump on. Doc, once Doc Griggs gets on, we will be rocking and rolling and getting this show going. In the meanwhile, yes, you are listening to amazing ska music in the background. We are waiting for Doc Griggs to jump on. I'll try calling him. No, you didn't see it. It just it. All right, hang. Let me mute myself. Not like I can take. All right, I think Doc Griggs should be jumping on here in just a moment. So we are ready to get this show on the road. All right, there's Doc Griggs.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man. Just
So-
watching the governor made his announcement.
All right, well, you want to start with that? If you guys are tuned in, you are listening to the daily live noise filter COVID show with Doc Griggs and Dr. Dery. We got started a few minutes late here, but we should be getting ourselves on board. I think Doc Griggs has some technical difficulty, but we are good to go. I guess you want to start with what the governor and what the mayor talked about then?
We can. I mean, I'm still taking in what the governor said, and I'm turning up your volume. Basically, phase one, we're going to enter phase one on Saturday, from what I understand.
That's what it seems like. Yeah. Did he give any details or?
Yeah, like 25% capacity. The nail salons and the gyms will be open. There's a number of other things, and I didn't get. I'm looking at it now to try to catch as many details. I'm going to see what I can Google as we're here, so we can minorly go over them. I know the mayor made an announcement at 12:30, and then there was another one. There was another one that she'll do tomorrow.
Right. She's going to go over more details tomorrow. What they went over today was looking at what the data was that they were going to be looking at. The numbers look great. We're going to go over some of that in our presentation today. because they are now making public the dashboards that they're using. So we'll go over some of that today. And she, displayed a really nice chart of R-naughts throughout the state. And what's confusing is that the R-naughts look like they are around 1 or so around the state, but it seems like our cases are going up. So that's a little confusing as of right now. But they talked about they're going to be systemizing their testing. They're going to have about 250 contact tracers hired by the end of the week. And they are going to continue to focus on folks wearing masks and isolation, but testing, as everybody says. So it looks as though there's going to be some sort of phased reopening alongside with what the state's going to be doing as well.
If you want, I have them here. They're listed in detail, and we can just go over it if you want.
Sure.
So this just posted from the Advocate an hour ago. The governor announced Monday it will move to phase 1 reopening on May 15th. Phase 1 is hoped to last 21 days until June 5th, when the state can move into phase 2. The order issued later this week will also lift the 10-person gathering restriction. Edwards encouraged those vulnerable individuals to stay at home as much as possible. Aquariums will be open to the public at 25% of their capacity. Barbers at 25% capacity. Bars that hold state food services certificates will be able to do takeout or delivery of food and alcohol, and dine-in indoor services at 25% of their capacity. Outside, not crowd size limitations if social distancing is practiced. No on-site consumption will be allowed if not seated at a state fire marshal approved seating. All non-essential business and all non-closed businesses are open at 25% capacity. Casinos and video poker opened at 25% capacity. And gaming positions guidance coming from the gaming board. Children's museums will remain closed. The churches, indoor services at 25% capacity. Outside, not crowd size limited if social distancing practiced. Funerals, indoor services at 25% of their capacity. Same thing with no outside crowd limitations with social distancing. Gym and fitness centers open at 25% capacity. Guidance coming on social distancing and hand sanitization. Hair salons, 25%. Malls, the anchor stores of shopping malls with exterior doors accessible by the public will be allowed to be open at 25% capacity. At the malls, the interior stores can continue to offer their goods for sale to the public for curbside delivery only. Massage parlors will remain closed. The movie theaters are open to the public at 25% capacity with guidance coming on social distancing and sanitization. Museums will be open to the public at 25% of the capacity with no organized tours or tactile exhibits. Nail salons open at 25% capacity with social distancing. The public amusement locations will remain closed. Racetracks will be open for races without spectators, only if approved by the Louisiana Racing Commission. Restaurants, coffee shops, and cafes will be open for indoor table service at 25% of their capacity and outdoor seating of social distancing if is practiced. Spas will remain closed. Tattoo parlors remain closed. Weddings, indoor services at 25%. Outside, not crowd limited for social distancing. Youth baseball camps, not prohibited in previous orders, allowed with social distancing. Youth summer camps, not prohibited in previous orders, allowed and with social distancing. And zoos will be open to the public at 25% of capacity with no organized tours and no tactile exhibits.
So they already gave a date for when phase 2 is going to be. So there's essentially date, not data driven. At the very top, you said like June 21st.
It says reopening on May 15th and is hoped to last 21 days until June 5th.
Okay.
Hoped. That's not a definite.
All right.
And this is reported by the Advocate. So this is not directly from their office. It's just a reporting on a reporting.
Right. That's a lot of what's wedding at 25% capacity? 25% of what? What the original plan was?
I guess it would be 25%. I don't know. I'm just giving it to you flat, straight from the.
I know.
And outside is not limited as long as social distancing is practiced. I'm not sure, but I think the municipalities are able to base their recommendations on these and what's happening in their community. I don't have the listings of what, I guess we'll find out tomorrow, more of what will be taking place in Orleans Parish, as today we found out about the data and the data sources, so everyone can understand everything is data driven.
That's right. So what do you think about the on first blush of the governor's edict there? What do you think about it?
I'm to be quite honest, I'm just processing it. That was a lot to take in, and when this literally just happened, I'm just processing it. Everything starts on Saturday, so
I'm leaning on that. I think it's a little too much too soon.
Yeah,
I think it's a little too much too soon. This idea of kids in summer camps, I think, is a little bit of a concern. Did they say bars at 25% or bars are closed? I know they said barbers at 25%.
The bars aren't closed. The bar with in-service facilities with fire marshal approved seating at 25%.
Fire marshal approved seating at 25%.
Yeah, like I said, I'll send you the article. I mean, all this is fresh and
right. And then also, what do you think about restaurants?
Like everything.
Are people going to be sitting inside restaurants or outdoor seating?
I know coffee shops and cafes is 25% outside, inside. Aquariums, barbers, bars, casinos, gyms, hair salons, malls, racetrack, restaurants, coffee shops, and cafes open for indoor table service at 25% of their capacity. Outdoor seating of social distancing is practiced.
Wow.
So the data after Saturday will dictate how we move. Again, this is part of the experiment of reopening, and we'll have to see what happens.
All right, that's some news for us to get started on. So, what do the numbers look like? Here we are. We remain, of course, well north of 4 million cases. We added about 61,000 cases overnight, 2,000 deaths. That's a little bit lower than usual. Our total number of deaths at 286,000. It used to be that 3 people were dying per minute. Now we're down to 2 people dying per minute. So that's an improvement again. This number of deaths has gone down, as you can see here. The mortality is definitely appears to be going down. When we look at the number of total cases, we see our cases are going continue globally, are continuing to kind of trend upward. And again, like we just said, when we look at mortality, there tends to be a trend downward, which is good. You can see this was one of the lowest numbers that we've had in a very, very long time in terms of mortality, globally speaking. When we look at the US, we're at 1.4 million cases with about 81,000 deaths. We all know that is definitely a lot more. We added about 12,000 new cases overnight and about 600, almost 700 deaths overnight as well. This is a huge improvement. We also went down from about 1 person to minute to about half a person per minute. In other words, now we're at about 1 person dying every 2 minutes in the US. So that's definitely slowed down. Again, we're a total number of deaths about 81,500. So you can see we're closely approaching the World War I approximate deaths that we saw with American soldiers. When you look at the daily curve in the US, it appears to be going down. So this is, of course, we'll take that good news. If that's what this is looking like, that's great. We'll definitely take it. And you can see these trends appear to be going downward. So, and you can see here, we've posted, one of the least amount of deaths that have occurred since the peak actually happened. So, again, I don't think that I think this is this is going to be this is the quiet before the storm. I don't think at all that this is, the new normal. I have a feeling that both this number here in the U.S. and this number mortalities are both going to be going up. When you look at testing rates, right, these are the number of tests that get done. So if you see something like Iceland, which is doing about almost 160,000 tests per 1 million people, they're doing it right. The U.S. is about 29,000 per million people. When we first started doing this, we were at about 3,000 per million people. So we've definitely done a lot better and increased almost by 10 times, but, not nearly, where we should be, and we should definitely be doing better. This is the COVID tracking project. You can see the number of positives here. This is the number of negatives here. When you take those two numbers together, you've got this number. When you take the number of positive and divide it by the number positive and negative, you have about 15%. Now, there are folks that are saying that there should be doing these rolling averages, and these rolling averages probably bring that number down a little bit more, and we'll definitely see that over the course of the next couple of slides. Here's the Louisiana numbers. As you can see, almost 32,000 cases, about 2,300. You can see the total number of cases. There's more cases in Jefferson Parish, but the Orleans Parish has about 470 deaths in total. And so you could see that Jefferson Parish has done a great job with tests, certainly compared to those of us here in Orleans Parish. When we look at the number of case rates, Louisiana is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we remain about 7th in the country. Again, we had 31,000 cases. We added 215 overnight, and we added 22 deaths. When we look at the mortality rate, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 5th in the country in terms of our mortality rate, which is essentially 496 per 1 million people. When you look at our testing rates, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we test about 47,000 per 1 million people. This is the Louisiana epi curve. It looks like the number of cases are remaining more or less stable. And what Dr. Avegno was talking about was that these numbers are falling significantly beyond this curve here. And so we are definitely kind of in either recovery mode or this new normal. And the same thing with mortality. Hopefully this is one of the lower numbers that we've posted for a long time. So hopefully we're starting to get on the back end of this. When you look at Louisiana and look at our R-naught in total, we're roughly, we're just bumping up against a 1 or so. And you can see here, this is the error around that R-naught right there. So that this 0.94 essentially should be telling us that our numbers should be going down. This is looking at the positivity rate. And again, when you look at the positivity rate from a perspective of the 7-day rolling averages, this positivity rate here is about 7. We've talked about a lot that we want the positivity rate to be below 4 or 5 or so. And that implies that we are definitely testing the right number of people. This is this new dashboard that the city just recently released. These are the total number of cases in Orleans Parish. And you can see that in orange is Orleans Parish. In blue is Louisiana. And you can see it seems to me that our cases seem to be increasing in Orleans Parish, in Louisiana State, but are within Orleans Parish, it's more or less staying the same. Number of deaths in Orleans Parish is about 470. And again, you can see more or less this number is more or less, at least it's not growing. And again, looking at the number of tests, both in the state of Louisiana and also in Orleans Parish, you can see that the state is doing more testing, which is great. And in Orleans Parish, that's more or less stable. So I think with that, Brazil, cases are going up, of course, and number of deaths continue to go up. So with that, Doc Griggs, thoughts?
Nothing. We're just going to watch the numbers. I definitely want to get that dashboard so I can post on social media so we can follow it. Again, folks, the data is going to drive. Everything is going to be dictated by the virus. There's no other way. We'll just have to see. And based on that, we will respond with our behaviors in kind. We can kind of see what's happening in Brazil, Doc. I want to talk about what's happened in other countries at some point. I know you have it on the list to talk about. On the news just now, they talked about South Korea. And we talked earlier, so I'll just follow your lead.
I mean, we can, I think that in terms of news, I think some of the big news that's going on is, this link between pediatric multi-system inflammatory syndrome is with the potential link behind this disease called Kawasaki. Certainly is gathering a lot of news. I know that we've talked about it before last week, and we've talked about it on our COVID podcast as well. So, this is something that I think is notable and something that we need just to be aware of so as to recognize that as we start opening up more segments of our society, kids once thought that were not infected or were thought to not be vulnerable, we are seeing are definitely vulnerable.
Yeah, because we're finding that it's attacking the cardiovascular system in multiple places. All over the body. You worry about this thing called coronary artery aneurysm, or a ballooning or an outpouching of one of the main arteries that supplies blood to the muscles of the heart. That can be problematic. It's usually Kawasaki Syndrome is what it's most similar to, which is a condition that's found in kids ages 2 to 6. It's kind of the boogeyman. It's almost considered a diagnosis of exclusion because it's rare and the symptoms are so widespread. You think about any of the blood vessels, any place that you have blood vessels is open to attack. The question over the years has always been whether or not it had a viral origin or a genetic origin. And again, we can't even say that it's, it's also called toxic shock. We can't even say that it's this virus because this virus is mimicking other viruses to cause its own syndromes. In other age groups and demographics, think about all the conversations we've had about this virus, Doc. We've talked about it mimicking allergies, mimicking the flu, mimicking the common cold, mimicking GI symptoms or the stomach flu, like people like to say. We've talked about it mimicking now Kawasaki's syndrome. It's mimicking allergy symptoms of just seasonal allergies by taking away your taste. This virus is doing whatever it can to get into whomever it possibly can to try to stay or become endemic. So it's, as we hear more symptoms, we're going to have to be more wary of different demographics of our society. Whereas before we were just looking at the elderly, the last place we were looking was our kids. But because we're picking it up more now and we're being more wary, we've actually had deaths due to this new toxic shock or Kawasaki-like syndrome, which is brand new. So again, while we're reopening across the country and across the world, actually, the virus is still here. I need to remind you, the virus is still here. There's no vaccine. We have no pharmacological treatment. We have no drugs to treat it. If you come down or contract the virus, if your child contracts the virus, even though Kawasaki syndrome, we treat with non-steroidals or things that help reduce inflammation, and we give IV for support, and you can do blood transfusions with immunoglobulins. With this, this is a viral cause, and it causes a viral pneumonia, amongst all these other things that your body basically has to ride out for anywhere from up to 3 to 6 weeks, if not longer, with no, sorry, Doc, I don't mean to get doom and gloom, with no guaranteed protection in the future, because we don't know how long the antibody response will last. So what are we left with? We're left with staying home. We're left with covering our face with a mask, and Doc will get into more about the importance of the mask. We are in the exact same situation with a whole lot more toys, technology, and connectivity than our recent, so some of us, and there's some of them are still around in our families, if we're blessed enough, ancestors that were around 100 years ago. This is novel and we don't have a treatment for it. The best thing we can do is wash our hands, stay away from each other, stay home, and cover our face in a mask.
Yeah, that's right. And then, one of the things that you and I've talked about that, I think is important for us to recognize is that as we're starting to open up, Doc Griggs, there's three studies that I want us to focus on that I think that summarize it best. There was, large groups that got together, for example, in Wisconsin, these so-called protesters, and about 1,500 people got together in a group. They were not masked and they were not socially distanced. And what we're finding out now is that there's 72 cases of coronavirus that has been diagnosed in that group of people. So there you have a group of people who got together in a group mass-like setting. When you look at bars and nightclubs in South Korea, where there was where nightclubs and bars opened up last week, there was one person who went around night clubbing for the night and is now now responsible for something like 40 to 50 cases around Seoul, South Korea, that were in and around the area where those nightclubs were. And when you look at restaurants, we've talked about this here on Noise Filter, that that there was a guy who went and had lunch. He was pre-symptomatic. He was sitting at a 90-degree angle of an air conditioner, and that air conditioner circulated virus to about 13 or so other people. So there you go. You have what happens when people get together in a group, what happens when people get together in a bar-like setting, and what happens when people get together in a restaurant-like setting. And I just think that, I think that, we're going to look back on these videos and on these podcasts, and we were going to say that we were prescient. But I don't think that we were prescient at all. I don't think this is Cassandra-like at all. I think that this is, the equivalent of me, saying if I let this go, it's going to fall to the, that's gravity. We could easily predict that. And I think that it's the same thing when it comes to what's happening here. We have three clear cases: a group setting, a bar setting, and a restaurant setting. And we see people that are all getting infected. And I just worry that we're going to start seeing increases in cases here. Doc?
Yeah, so again, we will follow the data. This was an extremely busy weekend. Yesterday, there were a lot of people out. I saw people watching motorcycles doing donuts. I got reports of. Saw a lot, like I said, saw a lot of traffic out. I'll just remind you that the virus is not gone anywhere. And just so you know, Dr. Dery is staying at home, and I'm not changing any of my behavior. We're not changing any of our behaviors right now.
You're not going to One Eye Jacks on Saturday night to go see a band play, or
I'm good.
Checkpoint Charlie?
I'll catch the Zoom version and continue to wear a mask when I'm out. Doc, what's the importance of wearing a mask?
Yeah, masks are super important, and we'll certainly get into those as we move forward into other shows. But when you wear a mask, you are protecting others from yourself. When I walk around and I don't see other people with masks on, I'm stunned, I am truly, I go for a run every day and I run with a mask on. And if I can run with a mask on, other people who are walking their dogs can wear a mask as well. It's really quite unsettling to see people not wearing masks. But we can do more of that. Let me, Doc Griggs, let me also just say, this is a mental health month. Do you want to say a couple words about that?
Yeah, so we want to be wary of our mental health. This entire thing is exhausting, riding the roller coaster of COVID-19. There are ups and downs. We've seen false promise in drugs. We've seen false dates, and with the anticipation of getting out. The grief of finding out that someone might be COVID positive, or sadly might have been hospitalized or passed away. The fear and anxiety of yourself, being wary as they find new symptoms. Does this mean I have it? The wondering and the self-doubt about whether or not you should get tested or not. This is a whole new world. Frustration of dealing with technology. Everyone from providers to patients to the public have experienced cycles in mental health, and we have to understand it's part of the growth process. It's part of the experience process. It's also part of grieving, and we need to know that and remain physically distant and socially connected, and understand that people are here for you. Your best weapon, besides your thermometer, your mask, and your social distancing, is your mind and your education and information. So stay tuned and stick with us and talk to your family and friends.
So let's go over some. Some stories. The White House plans to ask most officials, but not Trump, to wear face masks. Why do you think they're doing that? What's going on right now at the White House?
So right now, the White House is a hotspot because they have people that have been diagnosed and had more than, according to the social distancing constructs, more than the time allotted for proximity. I'll just say that. So there are people self-quarantining. There are people that have anxiety about going to the workplace because they're afraid. The whole concept of being asymptomatic with no symptoms, and 50% of the people that are positive should it can be anxiety provoking. So yeah, we'll just, that's what
So the White House is now asking people to start wearing masks. It's very difficult for us to do our jobs when you look at our elected leaders and our elected officials who should be, or who in the past have been known to model positive behavior, and we're just not seeing that here, and that's somewhat of a problem, in my opinion. But of course, they're trying to limit the spread throughout the White House. We're seeing multiple cases pop up positive in the White House, and certainly they're just trying to limit the spread there. Here, as states rush to reopen, scientists fear the virus will come back. As Doc Griggs would say, now in the segment that water is wet. Right?
And water is wet news, as we've seen happen in Germany, as we've seen at and I'm not going to steal the thunder of it, but there's another instance that we talked about much earlier about there being new clusters being formed. The virus doesn't spread the virus. People spread the virus. More people, no cure, more virus. So, yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, it's unbelievable again. We definitely know that the virus will come back, and this is the reality that we've set ourselves in, and there's nothing we can do. A divide between red states and blue states is driving. Yeah, I've been reading about this.
That's more wet water.
Yeah, cases are climbing in DC region. There we go. Are you shocked about that?
No, I'm not. I mean, part of it, let's just be totally honest about this. We get that everyone is over this whole thing. The mental anxiety of being quote unquote stuck in the house and not flipping your mindset to being safe in the house because there's something lurking waiting on you to come outside it's taxing, and everyone wants to go back to their normal lives. But there's a price to pay for that choice. And sadly, it's not real enough for some people until it's at their door or in their house. So those of us that know data, statistics, and science will watch, and we'll be there because we pledged to be there no matter what, and we will. But it's disheartening some days, and it's just disheartening.
No question about it. Listen, a new study offers the most complete details to date of American children seriously sickened by the virus. So we've been talking about this, right, Doc Griggs?
Yeah, we've been talking about this first of all, we've been talking about the fact that this is a multi-system disease. We know that it attacks pulmonary cells, but because that affects the oxygenation, this virus attacks everything. This virus is just trying to get in where it fits in, wherever it can be, and stick around. And then calm down so it can be around and pass on its genes for generations and generations. It's doing whatever it can to get in and be like, okay, I want to stay. And then over generations, like we've seen with H1N1 that wiped out, what is it, a third of the planet, or I don't even know what the number is. It was the last pandemic that we remember. It's calmed down, and it's the H1N1 flu that we survive every year. And I want to touch on the flu one quick second to put this to bed. For those straight mathematicians that say, I know numbers, the flu wipes out 35,000 people a year. We're at, what, 81,000 in 2 months? Since you want to do math, do that math. 35,000 in 1 year, 81,000, 70,000 in 2 months. So we'll break it down. We'll go back to, how about this? We'll go back to a few days or last week, a couple of days ago when we were at 70,000, which is, for my mathematicians, it's double 35,000. 35,000 for a whole year, 35,000 per month for 2 months. Tell me this isn't serious. So
these are the deaths that we know.
Yeah, these are the ones that we know, because in order for us to know them, you have to be diagnosed, which means you have to be tested and diagnosed with COVID-19, and you die under doctor supervision.
Right. What about, and how are we doing with testing? I mean, surely everybody's getting tested.
Oh,
so we're
exactly.
not missing.
When we have the supplies and we have the people and we have the lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So yeah, so this is real, and this is not just the flu, and it is more serious than the flu. But but wait, it is different. You're right. Must say it's different, because guess what? We have a vaccine for the flu. We have nothing for this. We can give you water or an IV. We can give you oxygen to support you while your body fights this virus, and we try to figure it out. So I got nothing.
All right. That was good, though. All right. Lastly, look at this. A number of Illinois governor's staff test positive, sending the governor and others home. So again, we are seeing continuing transmission, especially in the highest levels of government and democracy. And then New York will begin limited reopening upstate as well. So we are definitely on the path of opening. No matter how much you and I can offer our sage advice of slow and data, not date driven, but here we are. We're going to be saying this a lot. We're definitely not going to be tempted to say I told you so, because I think that all we just do is, just like Dr. Griggs said it best, we took an oath to be here no matter what. So we will be here no matter what.
And literally be here no matter what, because you're not going to see us. I'm not going out. I'll just, for the record, bro, I'm good. I'll see you on our normal routine, what we've been doing through this, educating as best we can, doing the best we can, and we'll take it from there. I mean, we're here and we'll be here.
I have a daily podcast. It's called Noise Filter. It's a 10-minute show. It comes out every morning. Please subscribe to it. It's on all the major platforms for podcasts. You can find more information about this and some of our other work at noisefiltershow.com. Doc Griggs, before we sign off, anything?
I got nothing. Be safe, stay home, wash your hands, wear your mask. Still processing everything right now, Doc. I'm still processing. We have another show to get ready for, and I'm just still processing. Can't emphasize again the importance of wearing your mask. Dr. Dery said it first. If we were, even before the report came out or even knew of the existence of the report, if all of us were to wear this cloth mask everywhere, if we get 80 to 90% of us to wear this mask, we don't need a vaccine. We could kill this thing. We could help prevent the propagation of this thing, because there would be less in the air. But I'll wait till he drops his opinion. Follow it, because we have data to follow it up, and we can talk about it and explain it.
Absolutely. All right.
More talking to do. I'm trying to save my voice because I got nothing.
All right, we have a show. We do this live at 4:00 every day, live on YouTube. Please continue to follow us. Please continue to share these streams. We appreciate it. Send your questions in if you do have any questions. You can send questions into to the Noise Filter Show website. So
wash your hands, y'all. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Health is a human right. Peace out, everybody.
Get checked, get fit, get moving.